I remember sitting on my back patio one day, and I was just tired, lonely, beat down. And I looked up at God, and I said, God, you lied to me. And I said, you said in your word that your yoke is easy and your burden is light, and you lied to me. And I sat there. You know what God said to me? Absolutely nothing. I sat there in silence because God doesn't have to defend himself.
Right.
And he just let me just sit there.
Yeah.
And I remember sort of tearing up a little bit, which was a big deal. And I said, okay, God, I know you didn't lie to me. I know you don't lie. I know that's not in your character. I know that I'm just not working in the way that you would have me to work.
Welcome to this episode of the Jesus in a Tragic World podcast with Greg Falls. This is Greg Falls here, and I hope that our time with each other in the coming moments will help you find fuller life in a relationship with God, yourself, and others. Welcome to the podcast. I'm joined by Tim Menser as we identify the signs of something we often hear about in work and leadership, and that's burnout. Burnout doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in slowly, silently, until one day you wake up exhausted, numb, and wondering how you got here. In this episode, we walk through a raw, honest story of burnout after decades of ministry. But this isn't just for pastors. If you've been carrying more than you're built to bear, physically, mentally, spiritually, this conversation is for you, because sometimes the way we're doing God's work ends up destroying God's work in us. Let's get started. Tim, welcome to the podcast.
Well, it's an honor to be here, and glad that we get an opportunity to talk more about this really important subject on burnout. Yeah.
Well, Tim, you and I serve on the same church staff. I'm the senior pastor. You are our discipleship pastor. You take care of adult small groups, help manage the whole discipleship process at our church. You also do things such as counseling and pastoral care and so many other things here at the church. You and I have actually known one another for almost 4 decades.
Yeah.
We were in college at the same time, at the same school. And then in our early adulthood and our early ministry, we'd bump into one another a lot at some common conferences that but we've been serving on staff together for 10 years. And we've done ministry together in some hard seasons and challenging seasons. And we've both experienced this thing called burnout. And you recently have faced an issue of burnout in your life and gone on a healthy path toward recovery. And I'd love for you to tell the story of burnout. Then we'll get into talking about identifying the signs. This episode is about identifying the signs because we want our people that are listening to be able to gauge where they are in terms of self-care and taking care of their own person, because we really can't connect well to God, self, and others if we're not caring and stewarding well the rhythms of our life. So you came to a place of burnout. You might not have realized that right away, but tell us that story.
Well, Greg, I like the way that you said that I'm on the path of recovery, because that's really the truth. The reality is I'm not an expert at recovering from burnout. I'm an expert at burnout. I know what that is, and I know what that feels like. But
you've begun a journey.
I have begun a journey. Yeah. And the thing about burnout is it doesn't start overnight. It's something that's a sum total of trauma, of pain, of busyness, of constantly engaging and not disengaging. I'd go on vacation every year, Greg. I spent time with my family. I spent time with my kids. I focused on my marriage. Never left vacation on the table at the end of the year. But I wasn't disengaging. I was just constantly.
Even on the vacations.
Even on the vacation.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to open my laptop because I couldn't shut my mind down. I couldn't stop it.
Right.
So I was always thinking about the next thing.
Yeah.
The person who's needing me or might be needing me, or what's going on with so-and-so. And so that was making it, just compounds.
Yeah.
And not just in your brain, but in your spirit.
Was it always like that, or did it get worse over time?
I think it's always been like that.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the way I'm wired.
That's the way it was in my life too. When I was a young man, I was revving. I was always concerned about what other people were thinking. And
right. Well, there's that, and again, I shared with you earlier, and I'll share it again with our listeners. One of the things I'm learning that I still got a long way to go. I understand that God loves me. I understand that He sent His Son Jesus to die for me. I understand that I have to stay connected with Him. My salvation comes from Him through grace, by faith, and it's all up to Him. But I still find so much of my worth in my work, and when that's what it is, you can do 100 things right, but one mistake will just derail your spirit.
Right.
I mean, all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, why did I, and that over and over and over again, just focusing on failures instead of victories. And it just gets to be heavy. Yeah. And then you walk with everybody through grief, but you don't tend to your own heart with other people's grief that you've carried.
Right.
You walk with people through counseling and breakups of homes and celebrations. I mean, all of it. You don't really have an outlet. There's not a natural ending.
Even the good can wear you thin.
That's exactly right. It does, because you invest your spirit, your heart into all of those things, and you find your heart spread all over the place. And it would be easy if I didn't love the people that I work with.
Right.
But when you love the people you work with, and you can't say no to this person, you can't say, so you end up not setting good boundaries, because part of it, you don't want to let people down, because that's the ego side of it. Right. And that's my worth is in my work stuff. But it's also in the whole, I don't want to let this person down because I love them. Yeah. I want to be there for them. If I can help them, I want to help them. And so all of that just builds and builds and builds. And then you get up one day and you realize I'm not okay. And so the way I'm wired is I just need to work harder.
Right. Yeah. We'll push through it.
I'll work my way through it. And then you start counting down the days. How many days till retirement? Still got 10 years. Okay, well, I'll just plow through it, And you just start feeling inside, you realize I'm not okay. Yeah. I'm not okay. And it's hard to have the courage to finally say that you're not okay.
Yeah. And this is more, isn't it? It's more than just working hard. Like, we all want to work hard. We're supposed to work hard. I mean, the Bible says 6 days you work and 1 day you rest. The Bible speaks of a higher purpose and a calling. The calling of Christ, the advancement of the gospel, the life of the church. We're in ministry or in career ministry, but our lay people are involved in that too. Plus, they have callings that take them into the community and can be very taxing. All those things they're high callings that we need to do with vigor. Work as unto the Lord, right? Yeah. However, we can do that without attending to the needs of our souls.
Right.
And we can do that. And when we're wounded, we can just push on, sweep things under the carpet, and move ahead to work our way through it, or just work our way over it. You know?
And I want to add to something you just said, because you said not tending to our souls. And some may translate that as, he wasn't spending time in prayer. He wasn't spending time in Bible study. Look, I was doing all those things. I was checking all the discipline boxes, but I was doing it tending to everyone else's soul.
Yeah, you're doing it as work rather than
not tending
Real
to
worship.
my own soul. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a difference if you're reading the Bible for what you can learn, for what you can teach and translate to other people, and spending time praying for all these needs and the needs around you, but not saying, okay, God, right now, me and you, let me just, the phrase I like to use, let me just crawl up into your lap, Father and a Son,
Yeah.
and let me just hear from you.
Yeah.
Just tell me stories. Tell me what you want me to know. Tell me what you want me to hear. Speak to me through your word, and just let me feel loved by you. That sort of thing wasn't happening. And listen, what I just said is probably foreign to most of our listeners.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever come to a place where you you had a hard time just in terms of, I think you mentioned it already, setting boundaries? Did you ever get to a place where you're working, right, and you're pushing things forward, and maybe you had to sacrifice some needs of family or needs of your own, and we're called to do that a little bit, but then when we compound that and we do it over and over again, things like, oh, I'm going to set an appointment on my day off. Sometimes there's an emergency. You have to do that. Whether you're a minister or somebody else in some other place of employment, life happens. But when it's constant, when it's somebody can set your agenda and you don't feel like you have the permission to have your own agenda for a little bit each week.
Yeah, that was everyday life.
I
was blessed to have a family that was very understanding. And there were a lot of times that I let my family, or I set my family as part of my agenda, and didn't let things encroach upon planned things. But if it was just an afternoon at home, then I was wide open to what anybody needed. And Greg, I lived with no margin. The workday ends at 5:00 office wise, but gosh, often I was in here later than that, or I would come back in, or I would spend the evening on the phone, or I'd spend the evening working on things that I didn't do during the day because I was working with people. And we have a lot of administrative tasks that we have to take care of on a regular basis, whether it's writing or reading or promoting or planning or contacting people. And, so you do that in the after hours and that sort of thing. And
our ministries can be interrupted. You could have a nice day planned with good rhythms that's going to help you get all your tasks done that you think need to be done or do need to be done in a given week. And then someone can die or end up in the ER, or a tragedy can happen, and you have to start organizing for something different to meet some needs in people's life. And that pushes everything else to something else. And how did those boundaries that need to be set if we're going to have some space to live life in rest, in Sabbath mode, in spiritual formation, in just breathing, eating, and attending to your own needs or connection with your family, how do you start? How did those boundaries get lost in life? Because sometimes we have them a little bit, and then they get lost over time, and we get into a rhythm where now we don't think we can get out of that rhythm, or we don't feel permission to get out of that rhythm in a way that can lead us to hell.
Listen, there's a myriad of reasons, and that comes out in therapy for somebody, or because it could just be you don't have good skills and saying no and setting up a schedule. You're just not a good planner. With some people, it has to do with, again, their worth is in their work. With some people, their focus is so on achievement. And so it could be a lot of reasons why people don't set boundaries.
Some people don't set boundaries too because they were wounded a lot of times when they're young, or even later on. They were treated in such a way that ended up adopting the belief that their feelings didn't matter,
right?
Their time didn't matter. Somebody else was more important in the family. You know, their feelings, their wants, their desires. You weren't allowed to have a life of your own. It was always somehow subjected to somebody else's will, and those things erode the ability to have the kind of boundaries that someone needs.
Well, and listen, we're in a ministry in a professional field that's toxic for, only what's done for Christ will last, and we've got all these things that we say, and we're really in a field where we're commended.
Oh yeah,
and for overworking, and it's not just ministry;
and sacrificing the work.
It's life everywhere, but yeah, it's viewed as sacrifice. And boy, our pastor, he's so faithful. He was there. He could have been with his family, but he was there, and that's just that one time. But it's the next weekend, and the next weekend, and the next.
You have
weekend.
a whole congregation full of people that are accruing those experiences with you.
That's exactly
right. And you're. So when you add up all those experiences for your single life,
right,
it consumes all the margin.
It does. And how do you say no to somebody who's got a dying spouse or a child? Or how do you say no to someone who is having spiritual questions and they're right on the edge of accepting Christ? And all these things are important and they're significant. But what a lot of people don't understand is they're constant.
Yeah.
And listen, it's not any different if you're a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker.
That's right.
Satan is a liar in all of those areas.
Yes.
And he will tell you, you have to be there. It's all up to you.
Right.
You're going to fail. You're going to disappoint God. You're going to disappoint you'll never provide for your family. You'll never, Satan's name, Satan is a Hebrew word, Hasatan, literally translated means the accuser. That's what he's best at.
Right.
He's just accusing your spirit.
Yeah.
And that constant strain will just lead to a burned out heart and life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you telling the story about where you got to. The story continues though, because I was a part of that story. You eventually came to the place. And we'll talk about this next episode. So everybody listening, this is just the beginning of a little mini 3-part series here. Next episode, you're definitely going to want to learn about beginning the recovery process. And we'll get very personal too for the listener in that. But tell us a little bit of the story about how you began. You've told me how you got into the recovery process, but how you got into a place of burnout. But what about how did you begin that? We won't get into the full process of recovery. That's for next time. But how did you begin? There was a time when you kind of shot up a flare.
Yeah.
You finally admitted things aren't well.
Yeah, I started recognizing the signs, and there are distinct signs that you need to be aware of that you might be in burnout. And the first is psychological. My internal mood had just changed. I couldn't cry.
Wow.
I didn't laugh much anymore. I joked.
Yeah.
But I didn't laugh. And it's something to be aware of. If you've got somebody that you work with that they joke a lot, but they don't laugh a lot, that may be something to kind of look at and pay attention to. Another thing is I couldn't, sometimes my mood would fluctuate. I could go to anger really quickly or frustration really quickly. But by and large, I was just in this sort of flat feeling inside of me. So I knew something was off.
Was that a kind of, in retrospect, was that a bit of almost a disconnection from your awareness of feelings, or a disconnection from feeling, period, that feeling part of you?
I would say
emotional
probably.
Side of you?
I'd say probably. Yeah. You just reach a point that you just aren't feeling anymore. Everything's just sort of numbed out.
Yeah.
And just this overarching depression.
Yeah.
That things just aren't right.
The numbing
there's not
out,
a lot of joy.
Is that a numbing out that where you're like, how does it come to the place of numbing out? Is it just because and maybe both, is it just because you're worn out? Or are there times that, hey, life's hard, so internally you kind of flip a switch and say, I'm going to stop feeling because feeling really hurts?
Look, my doctorate's in theology. So I don't know how physiologically, I don't know how this works, but it seems to me that everything is in such a high level of stress constantly, and everything is on hyper alert constantly, that everything just sort of gets burned out. I don't know how to explain it. It just it flattens out. I think that it happens if it's just a switch. I think you would notice it.
Yeah.
I think that it's just over time, like your yard drying out. It just gets browner and browner and browner. And before you know it, it's dirt. And you don't know how you got from here to here. But over time, you begin to see, wow, this is not where I moved. This is not the yard that I used to have. But it's in your life.
Any other signs?
Yeah, mental and cognitive. And this is one of the things that really got my attention. I've always, and anybody who knows me knows that I can't remember names. I can't remember anybody's name. I can be in the middle of a conversation and I knew their name at the beginning of the conversation, but I've been that way since I was a kid. I struggle with names. I've tried every single technique that I've been to classes on how to. None of it seems to work for me. I just struggle with names, but I couldn't remember. I was having memory problems. I would drive to the hospital to visit somebody, and when I'd get there, I wouldn't remember the drive there. I'd be like, how did I get here already? I mean, what's happened? And we all experience things like that sometimes because we're focused on other things. We're not paying attention, but it can be a little frightening, or you look up and you realize, hey, I don't really know where I am. Why did I? Oh, I know where I am. I'm on this road. How did I get here? But then I started realizing I would have conversations with people, and within minutes, wouldn't remember that I had that conversation with that person.
Wow.
And you think, gosh, I mean, what's wrong? Do I have some kind of dementia going on? I mean, what's happening? And I would read. And I would have to read a sentence 3 or 4 times just to get it to soak in. So I was really struggling cognitively, the way my brain was working. And Jill sometimes would look at me and she'd say, Tim, what are you thinking about right now? You look like you're in deep thought. And I would look at her and I'd say, honest to goodness, I have no idea what I'm thinking about.
Well, now that's just the typical man response.
It could be. But realistically, I was thinking about 1,000 things all at one time. Your brain is just, so it's like somebody else had a remote control and they were flipping the channels.
Harder to focus.
Real quickly. And real hard to focus. So that was a big part of it. Physically, Greg, I was in constant pain. Back problems. I was having trouble with my elbow. I'm in physical therapy at that time, and my feet were hurting me. And it's just one thing, and then another, and then I'd treat one thing, and something else would hurt. And I started going to a massage therapist to help with the muscular stuff that was going on. And my massage therapist told me, "Hey Tim, something's going on with you, because I will work on this one area on your back, and then I'll move to the other side of your back. And then when I go back to it, it's as tight as it was when you first got here." And my therapist looked at me and said, I just need you to understand that there's something else going on with you. And you probably need to see a doctor to get some help, because I'm worried about you. And that's the first person that really looked at me and said, I'm worried about you because there's something not right in your body.
Sometimes we need other people, right?
Absolutely.
To notice something, because we've gotten into a position of we just keep on plowing through.
Yeah.
Keep pushing on rather than paying some attention to the signs.
And then I had essential tremors, and they just kept getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, eating soup was a nightmare, Greg. I mean, trying to keep soup in a spoon, eating a salad, keeping it on the fork. You know, you get real close to your fork and just start shoveling this stuff in because it can be a mess. You know, and I joke about it, but it was getting really, really bad. With that going on, my blood pressure just kept going up and up and up. I was on several blood pressure medicines twice a day, and my blood pressure still just kept going up. And everything from chest pain, you know, they sent me back and did a stress test and all this sort of thing. And it's really those physical and cognitive issues, those two things that sent me to a medical doctor. And one of the doctors looked at me and said, "Hey, Tim, I'm just going to tell you, we've done blood work, we've done this test, there's nothing wrong with you. But if you don't make some changes in your life, you're going to die." And I'm like, okay, well, if there's nothing wrong with me, then, you know. And he's just saying, look, the stress, what you're dealing with is going to kill you. And it was another doctor that I got to that looked me in the eye, and he said, "Tell me your story, and then I'm going to tell you what's wrong." And I did. And he said, "Look, I got one word for you. It's burnout. It's a burnout. And you got to get some help. You got to make some changes." Greg, the other thing got my attention was spiritual. And this is something that was really hard. Again, I just felt so far from God. I'm a pastor. I spend time every day
studying God's word,
dealing with the things of God.
Yeah, talking to other people about Jesus. Yeah.
But I wasn't living in his grace for myself. And the work was becoming overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting on my back patio one day, and I was just tired, lonely, beat down. And I looked up at God, and I said, "God, you lied to me." And I said, "You said in your word that your yoke is easy and your burden is light, and you lied to me." And I sat there. You know what God said to me? Absolutely nothing. I sat there in silence because God doesn't have to defend himself.
Right.
And he just let me just sit there.
Yeah.
And I remember sort of tearing up a little bit, which was a big deal. And I said, "Okay, God, I know you didn't lie to me. I know you don't lie. I know that's not in your character. I know that I'm just not working in the way that you would have me to work.
Yeah.
But God, I don't sense that you're here. I have no sense of your presence." And I started praying, Greg. I started praying every day. God, I need to hear from you that you love me, and I need to hear it audibly. I need somebody to tell me, "Hey, did you know God loves you?" And I said, "God, please today send somebody to tell me that you love me." And you know who told me that?
Who told you?
Nobody. Day after day after day, I begged God for somebody to come and tell me that God loves me. And nobody said it. And I thought, well, that's it. God doesn't love me. You know, that's
you can't
and
put
then and then
put out a fleece.
Yeah, that's right. And God said, "Look, I tell you every single day. I tell you in my word that I love you. I've shown you. I sent my only son for you. You're fearfully and wonderfully made," Psalm 139 says. You know, and all these different things. And I said, "I know, God, I know. You're supernatural. You're all powerful. You can do anything. I just need to hear it." And God never gave that to me. But what he gave me in himself, which we're going to get into in another episode, came straight from him. And it was so much better than hearing it from you or for somebody else. But it really did convict me at how seldom we tell one another, and we tell other people, "Hey, do you have any idea how much God loves you?" Any idea? And, you know, we just need to do that on a regular basis so people can find value in that.
You know, one of the things, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. I think one of the things that I noticed when I listened to your story is that I know how you were doing in your job. I know what you were getting to do in your job, and they were things that you wanted to do. They were things that you had hoped to do and dreamed to do. You had built some things, and they were successful. From the outside looking in, it looked like Tim is living the dream.
Yeah.
Tim has what he, a few years even before that, said, hey, I'd like my job to look like this. I'd like to have this kind of impact. I'd like to minister to people in this way. You were doing it. Like you were stepping into a dream that you had, that God gave you, and now you're doing it, and yet you're burned out. And I think that that's something that our listeners need to hear, because they may be living their dream and not feeling like it was all that dreamy. They might be living the dream and go, oh my goodness, I'm tired in the doing of this. And both is okay. Like it's great that you're living your dream. Let's recognize that. But that doesn't mean that you don't have needs.
Right.
And that you don't have to reconsider how you're working in the doing of the dream.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I want to push back a little bit on that.
Sure,
because I looked like I was living my dream. But look, you and I've talked about my job at Bellevue is way outside of my gift mix, way outside of my personality mix. And with that, I just want to say that builds burnout too. So there's a lot of people that don't get to do their dream job.
That's true.
Most people. There aren't many people who get up and say, hey, I dig ditches for a living. This is what I always dreamed of doing.
Right, yeah.
And we can power through. You remember that old song, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. If you can't do the job you want to do, love the job you're doing, and power through that. And I think that's part of what I was doing. Listen, when I say that, I don't want you or anybody to hear that I'm complaining.
Right.
I believe God called me to do what I'm doing. I believe God's equipped me to do what He wants me to do. And all of those things. I am where God has planted me.
Right.
And I have great peace in that. But it's not my natural bent. And so with that, I want to caution people that if you're working outside of your giftedness or your passion, you've got
or even
to
an
pray.
expectation you had.
You've
about
got
what your life
to
is gonna
stay extra vigilant about burnout.
Sure.
And you've got to work harder in caring for yourself and caring for your soul because it's going to come even more quickly upon you. And all of that doesn't mean I don't like my job or any of that. So that's not what I'm saying. I love what I do. I love Bellevue. I love being here. I love working with the people that I work with. It's just not my natural. It's like I'm an athlete. I'm not, but let's pretend for a minute I'm an athlete and I'm a sprinter.
Yeah.
Okay. And they come in and say, Tim, you're great at running and you're a sprinter and you've done great at that. But we want you to run cross country.
Yeah.
We want you to run marathons. Okay, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
A completely different thing. And, if your body's not trained for that, if your mind is not that way, it's hard.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of more of what I'm talking about. I still love to run. It's just I'm running differently and it's weird and it's uncomfortable and it takes extra energy to do
But it's rewarding.
Oh,
and that's one of the things that I want to tell the listeners. We're talking right now about identifying the signs, and you don't have to have all these signs. Certain of those signs may hit you differently depending on your own particular circumstances, your own physical health, or your own age, and other dynamics. But We want people to go and say, hey, you know what? Maybe something is off in my life. Maybe it's severe. Maybe it's not so severe, but something that needs to be attended to so that I can live a more sustained life, connecting to God, self, and others in a way that's healthy and isn't draining of life. Because, Jesus said that we're to have an abundant life. And yet, why do we always feel like the thieves come and stolen and killed and destroyed in our life? And whatever you're doing in life, if you're not able, like we're all going to have fatigue, we're all going to have challenges, we're going to have painful situations. But if you're also not growing in a sense of connection to God, self, and others, if you're not growing in the love and the grace of God, if you're not growing in love for others, if you can't stop and rest and drink in the beauty of God's world on regular occasion, not necessarily a vacation, but just as the regular rhythm of your life, then you're not walking in the life God has for you. God may have a very busy life, maybe a life with some challenges, some difficulties, maybe even some painful things, but he also wants you to be able to drink in life and drink in. And so we hope that the listeners will listen to the next episodes, because here we're just trying to say, hey, there's some needs. You might identify with some of these needs. So pay attention. Yeah. But I'm really excited about what's going to happen next. In terms of next week, we're going to talk about beginning the recovery process. And then after that, we're going to have an episode called Living Burnout Free. Yeah. Which, boy, that's the way we want to live. We want to live in a rhythm that is life-giving along the way. Yeah. So many times we try to solve our fatigue issues or our stress issues by a great vacation a year, or maybe two. Yeah. But so many times if we're looking to our vacation to solve our problem, we come home from our vacation more burned out than when we went.
Oh, absolutely.
But what we really need is to change the way we do life.
Yeah, that's right.
So let me ask you this as we wrap this up here today. Next week, we're going to talk about beginning the recovery process, but I want us to start right now by saying, what would you say to someone who's identifying with the signs you've stated, and how can they begin, other than just tuning in next time, which we hope they do, how can they begin to reach for a different way?
Well, it's my family and I used to be missionaries in Africa. Yeah. And we went on safari several times. And a lot of people have seen this if they've watched African safari shows or something like that, that you'll see an impala out there in the weeds, and a lion comes up and that head jerks up and, they tense up. And, we've seen that just as we've rolled up in a safari truck or something and they see us and they raise up. That's kind of what I want people to do right now. I want them to have heard what we've said and all of a sudden just kind of raise up like, oh, something's going on. Right. There's something coming upon me. There's danger. Yeah. There's danger. And I want them to start praying for courage, because the things we talk about next week is going to take a lot of courage. I don't think of myself as a man of courage. And I've had a lot of people tell me, Tim, you showed a lot of courage in stepping up. And wow, if they knew how much I was trembling as I was doing that. But, I've learned over time that that's what courage is. Right. Courage means you're terrified, but you move forward anyway, and knowing that God's going to take care of whatever the results are.
Yeah. And even if you only half believe it.
That's right.
But you dare to have hope that you can have a better life.
And I think that's the other thing. You said it well. I want them to dare to have hope. Yeah. And trust God that he really does love you, care for you, and he has so much more for you. And it's not the stuff that the world offers. Right. It's something that can only come from him. And
it's not something you achieve.
No.
It's something you receive.
It's something that you walk in.
Right. Yeah.
You just live in it.
Which means you have to accept something that comes from God, and you didn't earn it. You didn't work for it, but you positioned yourself. You accepted the permission and the invitation to posture yourself in a place that you can receive it. And so many times when we get burned out or we get into these rhythms where we're working to the point or trying to push through things without attending to our soul, our needs, our emotional health, our mental health, our physical condition, when we ignore those and keep on plowing forward, we condition ourselves to believe that we're not worthy to receive, or we shouldn't receive, or if we receive, we're being selfish, or we receive, we're taking from someone else. When if you can receive what God has for you, you got more to give.
That's exactly right. That's
more to live and more to give.
Yeah.
But you got to live it to give it. Yeah. You can't live it without receiving it.
That's exactly right.
Well, why don't we stop there and tell our listeners about next week, and I hope that they'll go on a journey with us so that they could take a real honest, courageous look into their own life and the rhythms of life, and be able to ask the Lord, what do you have for me? And what needs to change in me so that I can truly receive all that you have for me in the rhythms of my life? Tim, thank you for being here, and we're looking forward to the next episode.
Thank you.
To our listeners, we just want to say thank you for investing the time that it takes to access these podcasts. We hope that this is a journey that does help you connect with God, self, and others in a really rich way and to live a fuller life. We do hope you tune in next time because that's where we're really going to get deep into the process of recovery and how you can begin that process. We do hope you'll subscribe to this podcast so that you can always know when an episode appears. It's, of course, free. And we do hope that you'll leave a review and share with a friend. God bless. Until next time.